Muhammad's recitation of the so-called satanic verses is a well-known event in Muhammad's prophetic career. I will first review this event and then argue that the satanic influence in Muhammad's life was much more pervasive than just this one episode. Now, the apostle was anxious for the welfare of his people. When the apostle saw that his people turned their backs on him and he was pained by their estrangement, God sent down a revelation. And when he reached these words, "Have you thought of Alat, Aluza, and Manat?" Satan put on his tongue, "These are the exalted cranes, whose intercession is approved." The Quraysh heard that, and then bowed down. Then Jibril came to the apostle and said, "What have you done, Muhammad? Have you read to these people something I did not bring you from God? And have you said what I did not say to you?" The apostle was bitterly grieved and was greatly in fear of God. So God sent down a revelation, making light of the affair, and telling him that every prophet and apostle before him desired as he desired, wanted what he wanted, and Satan interjected something into his desires as he had done on his tongue. Then God sent down a verse from the Quran, "We did not send before you any messenger or prophet, except that what he spoke, Satan threw into it," some misunderstanding. But Allah abolishes that which Satan throws in. Then Allah makes precise his verses. Surah 22:52. Ibn Abbas and Al-Jalalain both agree. Al-Jalalain, for example, says in his tafsir, "Jibril, however, later informed the Prophet of this, that Satan had cast onto his tongue, and he was grieved by it." Al-Tabari confirms this event as well, when Satan cast on his tongue two phrases. "These are the high-flying cranes, verily their intercession is to be desired." He uttered them, and went on to complete the surah. That evening Jibril came to him, and reviewed the surah with him, and when he reached these two phrases which Satan had cast upon his tongue, he said, "I did not bring you these two." Then the messenger of God said, "I have fabricated things against God, and I have imputed to him words which he has not spoken." I will now briefly respond to an attempt by Maududi to discredit the Satanic Verses account. He sums up his argument as follows. None of its reporters except Ibn Abbas is a companion. Number 2, there are many major discrepancies and variations in its details. Number 3, the wording ascribed to the Holy Prophet in praise of the idols in each tradition is different from that of the others. Additionally, he states, after an analysis of these 3 points, from this internal evidence it has become clear that this story is absurd and meaningless. That comes from Maududi's commentary on the Quran, Surah 22:52. With respect to number 1, Ibn Abbas was a companion. Therefore, Maududi overstates his case by first saying none of its reporters was a companion, and then making an exception for Ibn Abbas. Maududi is saying, effectively, none of its reporters was a companion, except for the reporter who was a companion. And apparently Maududi needs to be reminded that Ibn Abbas was extremely authoritative. In Sahih al-Bukhari 4969 and 4970, Ibn Abbas sits with the older men and gives the correct meaning of several ayat in Surah 110, where other men had failed. Umar called him in these cases to show his religious knowledge. Ibn Abbas taught the Quran, Sahih al-Bukhari 6830, Sahih Muslim 3957 and 3958. His knowledge is attested to. Once again, Maududi does not specify why we should trust his authority on this matter over Ibn Abbas. With respect to number 2, this is true of the Sahih as a whole. I have read and systematized every single hadith in Sahih al-Bukhari and Sahih Muslim, just to name a couple. There are hundreds of discrepancies and variations in parallel narrations. Every hadith scholar readily recognizes this. If Maududi was to apply this standard to the Sahih as well, he would tear them to shreds. Additionally, discrepancies in accounts of an historical event do not mean the event did not happen. This is basic historiography. With respect to number 3, this is simply a restatement of 2. Variations in wording is simply another way to say that there are variations in details. Finally, Maududi's defense is self-contradicting. He doesn't want to consider the reports, apart from Ibn Abbas, as reliable in the first place, per number 1. Yet he includes them in the comparative study in an attempt to overstate the inconsistencies and discredit the entire account as a whole. Further, Maududi makes no attempt to explain why such an embarrassing story would be fabricated by the early Muslims. This is a significant flaw in any attempt to defend the Satanic Verses. Maududi's attempts are nothing more than the talk of modern Islamic apologetics. Similar to the Satanic Verses is the bewitching of Muhammad. Magic was worked on Allah's messenger so that he began to imagine that he had done something, although he had not. While under the effect of the magic, the prophet continued for such and such a period, imagining that he had slept with his wives. And in fact, he had not. No doubt these were part of the reasons Muhammad's contemporaries accused him of being under satanic influence. Once Allah's messenger became sick and could not offer his night prayer for 2 or 3 nights. Then a lady came and said, "O Muhammad, I think your Satan has forsaken you, for I have not seen him with you for 2 or 3 nights. Now we must ask if there is any other evidence of satanic influence. A survey of literature on exorcisms indicates some common symptoms: outbursts of anger, obsessive thoughts or behavior, suicidal tendencies, external physical pain, and from the Hadith we have a couple of indications as well: ringing bells, forgetting prayer. Unlike satanic verses and bewitching already cited, none of these are in themselves conclusive. However, if there is evidence for all of these in the authoritative sources regarding Muhammad, this would make an extremely convincing cumulative case for satanic influence, in addition to the satanic verses and bewitching. And indeed, there is sufficient evidence. We will go through these 6 items individually and demonstrate evidence for each. Outbursts of anger. Upon a man saying Muhammad had not properly distributed the spoils of war, Muhammad got very angry and his face turned red, until I wished that I had not told him. When the messenger of Allah delivered a khutbah, his eyes would turn red, his voice would become loud, and his anger would increase. A man came to the Prophet and said, "How do you fast?" The messenger of Allah got angry at his words, and when Umar saw that he was angry, he said, "We are pleased with Muhammad as our prophet. We seek refuge with Allah from the wrath of Allah and his messenger." Umar started repeating these words until his anger went away. Muhammad had obsessive thoughts and behavior. On many occasions, he would repeat things obsessively. The Prophet said, "The biggest of the great sins are to join others in worship with Allah, to be undutiful to one's parents, and to give a false witness." He repeated it thrice, and kept on repeating that warning till we wished he would stop saying it. Muhammad had an obsession with odd numbers. Isn't it sufficient for you that you fast 3 days a month, then 5, then 7, then 9? When Ibn Abbas stayed with Muhammad one night, Muhammad supplicated with 19 phrases. Whoever cleans himself with pebbles, let him use an odd number. The number of stones used for cleaning oneself is odd, and the number of stones used for stoning the pillars is odd, and the number of times for the sa'i between Al-Safa and Al-Marwa is odd, and the number of circuits around the Kaaba is odd. So when one of you cleans himself with stones, let it be an odd number. Muhammad displayed suicidal tendencies. This is well known. "I thought, woe is me, poet or possessed. Never shall Quraysh say this of me. I will go to the top of the mountain and throw myself down, that I may kill myself and gain rest." The inspiration ceased to come to the messenger of God for a while, and he was deeply grieved. He began to go to the tops of mountain crags in order to fling himself from them. The divine inspiration was also paused for a while, and Muhammad became so sad that he intended several times to throw himself from the tops of high mountains. Bells. Strangely, bells are the musical instruments of the shaitan, according to Muhammad. Ibn al-Zubayr told that a woman client of theirs took al-Zubayr's daughter to Umar ibn al-Khattab wearing bells on her legs. Umar cut them off and said that he had heard the Apostle of Allah say, "There is a devil along with each bell." Perhaps this satanic musical accompaniment is why the angels do not go with a traveling company in which there is a bell. In spite of the association of demonic influence and bells, Muhammad's revelations came to him like a bell. "O Allah's Messenger, how is the divine revelation revealed to you?" Allah's Messenger replied, "Sometimes it is revealed like the ringing of a bell." This form of revelation is the hardest of all. Forgetting prayer. According to Muhammad, the shaitan comes and tries to distract a man saying, "Remember such and such," reminding him of things that he did not remember before until he does not know how many rak'ah he has prayed. When any one of you stands for prayers, Satan comes and puts in him doubts till he forgets how many rak'ah he has prayed. It's interesting then that Muhammad himself forgot how many rak'ah he had prayed. "O Messenger of Allah, has the prayer been shortened, or did you forget?" The Prophet looked to his right and left. They said, "He is right. You only prayed 2 rak'ah." On another occasion, Muhammad became angry upon being admonished for forgetting the prayer, and came out asking, "Is this one telling the truth regarding Muhammad forgetting the rak'ah?" They said, "Yes." External physical pain. According to Bishr, the mother of the Muslim man who died while eating poison, came to the Prophet during his illness and said, "O Apostle of Allah, I never saw fever like it in anyone." The Prophet said to her, "What do the people say about it?" meaning his illness. She said, "They say it is pleurisy." Thereupon the apostle said, "Allah will not like to make his apostle suffer from pleurisy, because it indicates the possession of Satan. But my disease is the result of the morsel I had taken along your son. It has cut my jugular vein." Muhammad said this regarding the pain that he was feeling. We seem to have 2 competing accounts of Muhammad's death. His contemporaries said it was pleurisy. Muhammad denied this because pleurisy, according to him, was associated with satanic possession. And the second option is poisoning, 3 years after the fact. Neither option seems appealing for Muslims. Muhammad was poisoned because, according to the woman who poisoned him, she wanted to see if he was a true prophet, in which case Allah would inform him of the poison, and if he was a liar, he would not be informed and die. Thus the woman would relieve the people of him. But regarding Muhammad's testimony in all this, trusting his judgment late in life is dubious. In his final days, his companions questioned his sanity. They said, "What is the matter with him? Is he delirious?" Regardless of Muhammad's mental state, he apparently spent his dying moments attempting to refute inferences to his satanic possession, inferences made by his contemporary critics much earlier in his career as well. But it wasn't just his critics. Muhammad's satanic possession was attested to by Ibn Abbas himself, and the historical records maintained by some of the earliest Muslims bear witness to the fact. When we look at the evidence, the outbursts of anger, obsessive thoughts and behavior, suicidal tendencies, external physical pain, ringing bells, forgetting prayer, bewitching, and of course the satanic verses, at times Muhammad looks like a man with a very troubled psychology. At other times, it looks exactly like what the early sources claimed. The supreme prophet of Islam was a medium for Satan himself.